Our next in-person mastermind is coming up this fall, and we're heading to Vegas. We're kicking off this mastermind with an in-person tour at Zappos downtown Las Vegas campus, where you'll learn their strategies behind company culture, core values, employee engagement, and customer service. Looking outside the legal industry for business concepts and strategies allows you to gain fresh perspectives and innovative solutions that can be applied to improve and differentiate your firm's operations. Following the tour are the mastermind hot seats. Every attendee has the opportunity to dive deep into their business obstacles with their mastermind group and coach. We believe that nothing beats working on your firm in person, so join us in Las Vegas on November 7th and 8th. This is your chance to break through barriers, spark new ideas, and accelerate your law firm's success. Limited spots are available. Visit maxlawevents.com for full event details and to grab your ticket today.
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. I'm Jim Hacking.
And I'm Tyson Mutrux. What's up, Jimmy?
Oh, Tyson, I'm just excited to be here with you and with our guest.
Well, that's good. You're probably excited to get into that on that airplane too, because you're going to go see Yusuf in a little bit. So that's pretty cool.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, I bet. So let's go ahead and jump in though, because I want to make sure you don't miss a flight. So we today have as our guest Shannon Pawley. She is the heart and soul behind the estate and asset protection law firm. With a career spanning from representing international blue chip companies to single parents, Shannon's journey led her back to her estate planning roots after over a decade as a vice president at a national law firm. Her mission is clear: to help clients age with dignity, grace, and independence while crafting their post-life legacy through asset preservation. The firm, dedicated to serving senior citizens as their healthcare needs evolve, focused solely on asset protection and estate planning, specializing in Medicaid planning, special needs planning, wills and trusts, and probate. Shannon and her team are committed to ensuring clients' legal needs are not just met, but exceeded. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Shannon, tell us, how long have you had your firm, and what was your sort of walk up to that, like from law school till you had your own firm?
So when I first got out of law school, I worked for a small boutique tax and estate planning firm in Metro Detroit. During that time, I got my master's of law in tax. And being a Gen Xer, it's all about chasing the dollars. At least it was at that point of my career. So I had the opportunity to join the national law firm based out of Boston. We did creditor rights. And essentially, I will say that was a very enlightening period during my life. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about management. I learned a lot about how to run teams. But also, I became very burnout with the practice of law. I ended up not liking the practice of law anymore, and not really myself. And I decided I needed to make a change because life's too short to be miserable. So that's when I decided to get back to my roots with the tax and estate planning. And I ended up having the opportunity. I met my former law partner, Victoria Collier. I ended up coming down to Georgia in 2018, working with her. After about 15 months, she extended an opportunity for me for firm ownership. And about a year after that, she ended up retiring from the practice of law. And I ended up purchasing out her interest, and here I am, and I couldn't be happier. This is definitely back to my passion. So for me, this is a passion, not just a profession, not only from the assistance I can give to people, but also from my own personal story with my mother, who is currently in advanced vascular dementia. And one of the things I always tell people, I understand both sides of the table. That is the attorney strategist, and that is the caregiver concerned family member. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm so successful here is from that dual understanding, but also just because, once again, this isn't a job for me. It's a passion.
Yeah, and I love hearing that. I can hear it in your voice, and from us talking beforehand, I could sense that as well. We love Victoria as well. Victoria is great. And tell us about the experience, what it was like to buy into the law firm and take it, because it sounds like you purchased it and took it over. or however the arrangement was. Walk us through that process a little bit, because I think people would be really interested in what that looked like.
Well, what I will say is prior to this opportunity, I never thought of myself as wanting to pursue as a business owner. I have historically always been the one that thrives being part of a team and thrives, as silly as it sounds, but probably not, being recognized as part of a team. And I know when the opportunity was presented to me, I couldn't turn it down, because there's nothing more intimate of an opportunity and more open of an offer than when you have a person who has already started to create this foundation of a firm with their own passion, and they have individually sought you out to pass that branch. And so I wasn't expecting it, but I was very happy for it at the same time. There's been a lot of adjustments. There's a lot of adjustments as a business owner. I thought coming in that I wouldn't have as much of an adjustment, being the vice president of litigation operations covering 36 states before I came back into this practice of law. But it is a different dynamic. It's one that I'm learning at daily. It's one that's never the same day. And it's one that I know I always still have the connections that were shared with me through Victoria, with Victoria, and that I've created since then, just to continue to solidify the passion, the focus, and the delivery of services to our clients.
What surprised you the most after making that transition into owning the firm?
I think what surprised me probably the most, to be completely honest, was COVID. What I mean by that is essentially I completed the purchase of the firm February 1st of 2020, and COVID shutdown was March 17th. So the biggest difficulty, but the biggest triumph, is me surviving COVID in the midst of trying to also establish a transition. I think that the benefit was I already had a pre-existing relationship with the team. In addition, the other adjustment that I greatly enjoyed was being able to be more standardized in legal operations and processes, which was my background. And so COVID was the biggest challenge, but also COVID ended up being one of my biggest triumphs too, as that new business owner, because I think that I learned a lot more my first year of individual business ownership than most people prior to that would have learned in like 15, 20 years as a business owner.
So we've had several guests and guild members that have taken over law firms, some of them fairly abruptly, some of them over time, but the team stays the same, right? But the leader changes. So what was that like when it comes to managing the team, that dynamic?
What I will say is when you're working with employees, as I think we all know, you have those that are loyal to the firm, loyal to a manager in a firm, and then just loyal to themselves and their self-family focuses and purposes. And in the transition, there were some that were loyal to my former partner. And so as my partner was gone, they almost felt a little lost. And although I tried to bring them back into the herd at the same breath, I'm the type of individual that I want to support you in your choices. And if your choice is that this isn't working, let's work on a exit plan, basically. But the benefit, though, and I think this is the benefit that I had versus somebody like I'll use the term coldly purchasing a firm, is I already had some pre-existing relationships with these individuals. So even if it were the ones that what I will say is were more person loyal than firm loyal, even there in the transition, as they were transitioning out and I was having to bring in new people, there was still a mutual respect for the betterment of the firm, even with the offboarding and the onboarding of the new people. So I do all have to say that I greatly appreciated that. But I will say that, I have, from the time that I purchased the firm, I only have one employee that has stayed with me the whole time. Others have transitioned in and out for different purposes, going to law school, family members moving, or et cetera. But I also think that's just life. That's business. That was even when I was in my other firm. There's transitions. It's the whole idea of breathing. You're inhaling and you're exhaling. And sometimes when you exhale, people are leaving, but just realize another breath is going to come in.
What is your favorite part of running the firm, and what's maybe your least favorite parts?
So I like doing things my way, to be completely honest with you. I like that if I see an issue, I don't have to go through a committee or through different obstacles in order to get the resolution that needs to be done, because you can make quick changes as the business owner. That is what I like. What I dislike, and it's something that I'm learning actually to like the longer that I am in this role as a business owner, is patience. What I mean by with patience is specifically referring to marketing. In my former firm, I did marketing, but it was business to business, not business to consumer. And that has been the biggest mental, transfer of focus that I've had to do. And that is something initially I couldn't grasp it. I felt like I was just throwing money out the door. It was very frustrating for me. So I had some resentment towards learning how to do marketing. But now it's becoming something that I'm much more excited about. But I would definitely say the idea of a marketing focus, because as an employee, unless you're a marketing employee, you don't really think much about marketing. And even when I was in the national law firm, we had a specific team that was doing marketing. So for me, that was the thing that was most foreign to me when I ended up taking over the ownership, something that frustrated me quite a bit at the beginning, but something that I'm learning and I think in my own way I'm mastering.
What are your goals for the firm? Do you have a certain size that you want to get to? Are you wanting to expand into other states? Because you've worked for a national law firm before. So what are your goals for the firm?
Well, one of the goals I would like to do is, because I am also licensed in the state of Michigan along with Georgia, is I would like to get a presence in Michigan for two reasons. Number one, I've got family up there. I want to be stronger in that estate planning community up there, especially with the governmental programs to help with long-term care for the personal reasons, but also that just means I can branch it off to help more people. I see the firm, in my view, as a social advocacy opportunity that actually I was just talking to my team about this today, that how honored we are to be able to work with individuals that have been in positions of peril, of isolation, of depression, just because life happens. But when life happens, we're not always prepared for it. And being able to be advocates for them, not only in the proactiveness of preparation, but also in the reactiveness to situations you weren't ready for. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the firm continuing with our relationships with groups like the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and other groups just to get the message out. I'm not looking to take over the world. What I am looking for is to make the world a better place.
One thing that I've always wondered about elder law is it seems like a lot of people wait until the last minute to deal with their problems. How do you handle that from a marketing perspective and like a reaching out to potential clients aspect?
So one of the things that I will emphasize is the niche that I'm focusing on with my firm is actually trying to help people with long-term care needs due to the mind or body starting to have ailments affecting their ability to live independently. Now, one of the things I will emphasize is this isn't just marketing to people when they're in that situation. This is when sitting down and me having the opportunity to speak with like the IBM retirees, to be able to sit down and talk with women's groups, women that are ranging from young families all the way up, so they can actually start the discussion about the issues that happen and how you need to be proactively prepared throughout. And estate planning is not just something you do after you retired and when you start getting sick, which is a misconception a lot of people have, even though that's the niche that I focus upon to try to help people. But part of helping people for that niche is also proactively preparing people before they get into that situation.
So this is more of a process question, because I am wondering what kind of processes you had in place for the practice areas that you practice. compared to what maybe Victoria had in place before you purchased the practice, and how those had to change? Because like management's one thing and dealing with culture and all that, but like the actual process is different too.
It is.
And so how did that change?
So actually, I realized it ended up making my team feel much more independent and engaged, because one of the big things I'm about is not only education, but also the communication and the setting up of key meetings, whether they be virtual or face-to-face, because nothing is more frustrating for me to hear as an estate planning attorney, or even just as a family member or someone that has special needs, that they went to an attorney, the attorney didn't educate them to their options, but instead told them what they needed and didn't explain to them what that means. They just told them, you need this, and didn't explain to them how to utilize it fully. And that's one of the things, the big implementations that I took over, was trying to get that relationship with the individuals, and that relationship of, okay, here you are, this is where you're at, tell me where you're at. From here, these are your options. From your options, you're going to choose a course. When you're on that course, I'm going to walk you through the whole path. I'm going to answer your questions, and I'm going to ask you questions to keep you engaged, taking you all the way up to the point that we have the end product. But it doesn't stop there as an attorney, especially an estate planning attorney, that you just hand them paper. They have to understand the paper. And one of the things that I'm very big about too is bringing in the other professionals that are assisting them in their estate planning journey. For example, when I have my fourth and final meeting on a trust, it's a funding meeting. Not only am I explaining to them in details with all assets they provided me how to fund, but I invite them to bring in their financial advisor, bring in their tax advisor, bring in their insurance advisor, because all of us are mutually focused for the same goal, and we all have unique attributes to get to that goal. And that's all part, once again, of the communication, to start the communication between their key players for success, instead of persons thinking that everything is in a vacuum, that the attorney only does the attorney stuff in their lane, the financial only in their lane, without realizing that we're actually four wheels on a car, that if we're not all going the same speed, we're going to have a spin out. And that's why it's so important with that communication. That's one of the big changes that I made just in what I'll call the client experience, and also the team member experience, because now they're being looked at for the expertise that they have. And they also enjoy having that engagement with the client as something more than just a message relayer.
Is there anything that you or your firm are struggling with right now, or that you had to overcome that you're sort of proud of, or anything that's sort of driving you nuts?
One of the things that I will say, it took me a while to try to figure out how to proactively prepare for slow months. In all businesses, there's certain months that are just naturally slow, but that doesn't mean that you just accept them as being slow. That means you have to prepare and be very active in addressing something to supplement the income during those months. One of the things I've offered to our clients, that we were starting with Victoria, her and I had talked about it originally, but I have definitely developed it into a much stronger offering to our clients as a maintenance program. And guess what? December is one of our slowest months in estate planning. When is our renewal for our maintenance plan? It's in December. It makes sense to be in December because it's for the next calendar year. It's for a slow month. And the other thing is, we're always updating and giving more benefits, because once again, it's all about education and benefits of the relationship. And it's a continuation of the relationship. Just like you have a family doctor, I always want people to think of me as your family attorney. Just like you go to your family doctor, you start having chest pains, not thinking that they're going to be able to do open heart surgery, just because you trust them to confirm if there is an issue, and then they will refer you out to somebody that they trust that's a cardiologist. I often tell people, think of me the same way. I'm not a products liability attorney, but I can sit down with just my basic understanding and say, yeah, I think this is something you might want to talk to, and I want you to talk to this person. I think this person is the right person to talk to you because of X, Y, and Z. So that's one of the things that I've definitely done to try to address what I'll call the slower months, and it's been very successful.
I like that. That's really good. A lot of people need to think that through a little bit more too when it comes to their slow months, and do some projections, and because you can do a lot of things like with what you're doing, like the maintenance program, that can help offset those slow months. But excellent stuff. Well, Shannon, we are getting close to time, so I'm going to start to wrap things up. Before I do, I want to remind everyone to join us in the big Facebook group. Go to facebook.com, search Maximum Lawyer. You'll be able to find us there. A lot of great attorneys sharing great information every single day. And if you want to join us at one of our quarterly masterminds, go to maxlawguild.com. You can join us there. And while you're listening to the rest of this episode, if you don't mind giving us a 5-star review, we would greatly appreciate it. Helps spread the love. Jimmy, what's your tip or hack of the week?
One of the great things about having Maximum Lawyer and being part of this with you is that people sometimes confide in us when they're struggling. That's sort of like one of my favorite things. And I'm always reminded of the courage it takes to let someone else in and know things that are scary or hard or that you want to change. And so I just want to say to anybody out there who's suffering, tell one other person. It can be your spouse. It can be your dad or your mom. It can be your therapist. It can be your partner or whoever it is. Just don't suffer in silence. There's great power in sharing it with somebody else, because I think a lot of the baggage that we carry around is just in our head, and just by speaking it out into the world, it loses a lot of its power, and it gives you that maneuverability, that space you need to make a change.
Jimmy, I think that is wonderful advice. Absolutely. That's good stuff. Shannon, we always ask our guests to give a tip or a hack for us. It could be an episode, podcast that you listen to, a video, a book, a quote, you name it. What do you got for us?
Here's my comments. I'm very big on mindset. And I think as a business owner, you have to have a positive mindset. And a key book that if persons have not read, I encourage you to read is The Gap and the Gain. Because so often as business owners, we are so focused on our next goal that we don't celebrate the accomplishments that we've made that have gotten to you where you are today. So if I want to give a tidbit to someone to be much more successful with their mindset as a business owner, read The Gap and the Gain.
That's good. We've had a couple of people mention that in the guild as well. I think Jim has read it. I'm not 100% sure about that, but excellent stuff. For my tip of the week, I saw somebody complaining about grocery shopping the other day, about having to take the time to do it. But for those of you that have Instacart, and this is a little tip for you, you can plan your recipes for the week going into, there's the collection section in the app. And this is related to law firm owning, because it's going to save you time from going to the damn grocery store, and you can actually free up your time and do more work if you need to do more work or spend time with family. But you can go in there and you can click the recipes that you want, the ones that you want to cook, you select them, and then it will add those items to your cart. And then you can do your grocery shop, and you can have those things delivered. That way, you're not having to do all your meal planning and everything else. Honestly, it'll save you a bunch of time to do it. So it's something I recommend that anyone that doesn't like going to the grocery store, you'll probably spend less money too, by the way, because when you go to the grocery store, you're going to grab things that you don't probably need. You'll do more planning if you do it through the app. But that's my tip of the week. Shannon, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate you sharing your story and about everything that you're doing. So thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your host and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.
Before you go, have you heard Jim and Tyson talk about the Guild on the podcast or in the Facebook group? If not, you're missing out on some really exciting things happening with Guild members and their law firms. The Guild includes a community, accountability, trainings, group coaching, and in-person events like our quarterly masterminds. Inside, you'll gain support, tap into a network of connections, and continue learning, a common theme among successful entrepreneurs. Investing in a community is like the self-care of business ownership. Surrounding yourself with other people who get it is crucial when you're creating a rock-solid foundation to build your business on, one that's strong enough to withstand setbacks, transitions, and growth. So head to MaximumLawyer.com/the Guild to join now and get started today.